Hi, so let's get into this. We're doing a deep dive today on something that is, I think, at the absolute core of every stable relationship,
Mhm.
but it's almost never really given a name. We're calling it the unnamed protection.
And you know it when it's there,
Yeah,
and you definitely feel his absence.
absolutely. And just to be clear, this isn't about financial security or physical safety. It's not about having all the right answers either.
No. What our sources are really exploring is that super intimate form of safeguarding.
Hmm.
It's the protection of, our inner world, our emotional landscape.
Those tender places.
Exactly. The places that, if they get wounded,
Hmm.
cause this really deep, lasting damage to the relationship. And I think the goal here is to give you the language to finally understand this need.
Right, it's the protection of the heart, not just the body.
Yeah.
And we're looking at how men traditionally have defined protection, which is usually, through action, through
By
providing,
doing things.
versus how women often feel safety, which is more about presence and emotional regulation. And the relationship itself, it asks to be protected in that space right between those two languages.
And this brings up a huge um, a central conflict we see today.
Hmm.
We heard so clearly from men in the source material that they feel confused.
Deeply confused.
Yeah, they want to be great partners. They are ready to guard the door, so to speak, but they feel like they don't have the emotional maps for the inside of the house.
And on the other side of that, you hear so many women who are just profoundly exhausted. They're not asking for a knight in shining armor to come fix their life. They're just asking for someone to stay present, to not check out.
To protect the emotional space between them.
Yes, the hunger is for that feeling of safety, for being witnessed, not for a performance or a list of solutions.
And that really is the key distinction the sources kept coming back to.
Mm.
Most of what wounds us never even touches the skin. It lives in those places where love was supposed to reach, right? Where we expected safety, and instead we got, I don't know, dismissal or just absence. That's the wound we're talking about protecting.
Yeah, and traditional protection, it's pretty straightforward. It's
Yeah.
action-oriented. Did you pay the bills? Did you show up when you said you would?
Is your word steady? It's all about guarding the perimeter.
Exactly. But the kind of psychological and relational protection our sources get into is so much more sophisticated. It's about the interior landscape,
Wow.
the ecosystem of the bond itself.
I love that. It's the difference between protecting the house from a storm outside and protecting the feeling of warmth and security inside the house while the storm is raging.
Ooh, that's good.
And the sources really emphasize that this confusion isn't random. It has this deep gendered root. I mean, men were raised by cultures, families, sports, sometimes military service that rewarded action and stoicism.
Oh, absolutely. They were shaped by environments that, frankly, mocked softness,
Yeah.
where your emotional world was basically framed as a liability. You heard it all the time. Don't cry, man up, handle it yourself. If you showed vulnerability, you paid a price for it.
That conditioning, it just creates a vacuum. I mean, if you spend your entire life being trained to suppress your own internal experience, how would you possibly know that emotional depths, that capacity to just stay in a feeling, is the very skill that makes a connection feel safe for someone else?
You wouldn't. You're equipped to solve a problem.
But you're completely unequipped to just witness distress without feeling this compulsive urge to control it or fix it.
So if the conversation is stuck, with one person saying, I'm protecting you by fixing things, and the other person saying, I don't need fixing, I need you to see me, how do you bridge that?
Well, the source material frames this not as like an accusation.
Right, not as failure.
No, but as an invitation,
Yeah.
an invitation to evolve. It asks us to widen what protection even means. And it brings in this really wonderful concept from Buddhist philosophy. That protection isn't just about guarding the gate and shutting the world out. True protection is guarding the heart. And you do that through non-harming, through right speech and mindful awareness. It's about being awake inside the relationship.
That is a huge shift. We're moving from an external boundary to an internal commitment.
Exactly.
So non-harming in a relationship, that means understanding that your word, your presence, or even your lack of presence has a real emotional impact.
A real impact. And right speech is about being truthful, but also kind. And mindful awareness just means paying attention to how your partner's nervous system is actually reacting to you.
Are they relaxing when you walk in the room, or are they kind of bracing themselves?
That's it. That's the most fundamental metric of emotional safety right there.
Okay, so let's get practical. If protection is presence and presence is awareness, what does that actually look like when things get stressful?
Well, the sources are really clear. Presence calms the body. It lets the nervous system physically exhale. And when you're truly present, conflict can turn from this, neurological collapse
Yeah.
into a real chance for clarity.
The ability to calm the body, that's key.
It's everything. Because when your partner is upset, their sympathetic nervous system is firing fight, flight, or freeze.
Right.
And if your first response is to defend yourself or jump to a solution, you just activate your own sympathetic system. And now you just have two stressed out nervous systems colliding.
Which is relational danger. And the person who's distressed, they don't register that as, oh, my partner is trying to help.
No, they register it as, my partner is not a safe place for me right now.
Okay, so what does practical presence look like? Let's take that classic scenario. A partner comes home, they're totally overwhelmed by work.
Okay, so the traditional action-oriented response is something like, it'll be fine, just quit your job, or here's how you solve that problem.
Which is really an attempt to just dismiss the discomfort and get to the performance part.
Right. But the practice of presence means hearing the pain first, not the problem. It means saying something like, wow, that sounds profoundly overwhelming. And then asking, what part of that whole situation right now feels the heaviest in your chest?
That is a lifeline of a question.
It is.
But I can imagine a lot of people, especially those fixers, hearing that and thinking, isn't that just passive?
Yeah.
If I just ask where it hurts, aren't I just avoiding giving real support?
And that's exactly where the growth is. We confuse action with utility. The sources argue that asking what part feels the heaviest is actually the most difficult and powerful action you can take.
Why?
Because it requires you to set aside your own anxiety. Your anxiety about performance, you have to set that aside to truly witness the other person. You're regulating your own desire to fix so that they can feel that you are steady.
So you're doing something with them, not for them.
They're being a safe anchor with them.
Yes. And this anchors us right into the idea of repair, because emotional protection is so much about that repair reflex when conflict happens. It absolutely is. I mean, defensiveness is just a self-protection reflex, right?
Wow.
Biological, we feel accused, we feel endangered, we defend.
But emotional protection means you have to pause long enough to override that reflex.
Yes, so you can respond with care instead of with fear. If you can't override your own defensiveness, you can't repair. And without repair, intimacy just. It quietly dies.
So if the reflex is to say, I didn't mean to hurt you, to defend my intention, what does real repair language sound like?
Real repair sounds like, I see how that landed and I hear that it hurt you. That wasn't my intention, but honestly, I care much more about how it landed on your heart than I care about being right.
I love that. Let's try that conversation again with more care. You're choosing the relationship over your own ego.
Every time.
The sources also gave some really clear guidance on handling those quiet moments. When a partner just goes quiet, they're shutting down. The instinct is often to push them or just withdraw. Right. Instead, you offer curiosity without pressure. Your presence is unconditional, but it's not demanding. So the language is simple. It's, I can feel that something has shifted inside you.
I'm here when you're ready.
I'm here when you're ready to talk. Take all the time you need. There's no pressure. You're guarding their space.
And what about when a partner takes that huge leap and shares something really vulnerable, like a fear or a childhood wound?
You hold it with reverence. That's the word the sources used. Your only job in that moment is to receive it.
Not fix it.
Do not fix it. Do not analyze it. And you certainly don't offer a critique of it. Presence is just saying, thank you for telling me that. Thank you for trusting me with that.
And you just stay. You stay present without letting your own discomfort push you to solve their pain. That act of staying is the ultimate protection.
It is.
Which brings us to this idea of mutual protection. Because we focused a lot on, men evolving their definition of strength, but this is a shared refuge, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a relationship is only truly safe when both people are protecting each other's inner worlds.
So let's flip it. Let's talk about protecting his fears, his insecurities.
Yes. The wounds that culture told him he was never allowed to even have, let alone show.
And that takes immense trust. Because of everything we just talked about, that lifelong training to hide his weakness, when he brings you his vulnerability, that is an act of profound risk.
It is. He is literally handing over the one thing he was told his whole life to hide in order to survive.
And that is precisely why that moment requires reverence from the partner.
Yes, and reverence means honoring the risk he just took. It means not analyzing his feelings, not questioning if his history is valid. The commitment has to be to hold that vulnerability with so much care that he knows, without a doubt, it will never, ever be used as a weapon against him.
Because if that vulnerability is met with, you shouldn't feel that way, or why are you making such a big deal out of that, the immediate reaction is to rearm.
The armor comes right back on.
He chose you over the armor, and if that choice is punished, the armor comes back on, probably stronger than before.
And that is when the connection just quietly dies. But when a partner honors that vulnerability instead of judging it, his heart loosens.
Mm.
And in that loosening, he actually gains the capacity, the emotional bandwidth to be fully present and protective of hers. It's a system of safety, a cycle.
So for men, this material is really presenting emotional presence not as softness, but as an evolution of strength.
It's a genuine evolution. It's the strength that's required to build trust where fear used to live. It's the strength that actually regulates a partner's nervous system.
Because she doesn't have to constantly brace for that emotional disconnect.
Exactly. And for women, asking for this kind of emotional protection is framed as clarity, not as being needy.
You're articulating an essential boundary.
Yes. But that clarity comes with that shared duty we talked about. You also have to protect his emerging softness. You have to make sure his fears aren't belittled or dismissed.
Because the ultimate choice, when he really lets you in, is that he is choosing you over the armor he spent a lifetime building. And that commitment to stay present, even when it's uncomfortable, that's the refuge.
So if we synthesize all of this, true protection isn't defined by a checklist of actions. It's an ongoing commitment to the relationship itself.
And it starts, sort of paradoxically, by learning to regulate your own inner world first.
You have to. You have to manage your own fear, your own defensiveness, so you have the capacity to protect someone else's inner world without losing yourself.
It's about regulating the heart, choosing curiosity over judgment, and just showing up with a nervous system that feels safe enough to stay open instead of just snapping into defensiveness.
And the sources offer this really beautiful summary of the true promise being made. It's a vow that's quieter than, I love you, but in many ways it's more powerful.
What is it?
I will not harm you. I will not turn away from your pain. I will not weaponize your vulnerability. I will not abandon the parts of you that trusted me enough to be seen.
Wow. So, what does this all mean for you, the listener?
I think the ultimate realization from this deep dive is that the real promise we make, that unnamed protection, it's not, I will shield you from the world. It's, I will meet you with a heart that refuses to turn away, even when meeting you means sitting in my own discomfort. So the question we want to leave you with is this. What would it take for you to consistently offer and to accept a heart that stays awake, that protects without controlling, and chooses radical presence over tired performance?